Hey everyone, welcome back. This is going to be a mini crash course in boundaries. If you struggle with boundaries, no matter if it's someone that you work with, someone in your family, a friend, a partner, doesn't matter. This is going to be everything that you need to know in terms of how to really have great boundaries and enforce your boundaries. Boundaries is one of those really tricky things because if you don't know when a boundary has been violated, if you don't know what it means to be in a relationship where there is mutual respect, if you do fear verbal confrontation, if you fear telling someone what you think and how you feel, if you don't even quite frankly know what you think and how you feel, then you're more apt to be prone to things like manipulation, emotional abuse, and someone violating your boundaries all the time. You won't be able to really tell when someone's actually doing it, and even if you can really say, okay, yes, this person is violating my boundary, you're gonna be so riddled with fear or guilt or uncomfortableness because it really takes a strong, confident person to be able to stand up and say, and a self-respecting person to be able to stand up and say, hey, look, I don't like that. So that's kind of step one. And step two is not everyone is going to respect your boundaries. And so now you have to learn how to actually enforce that. And what does that mean? And enforcing boundaries looks different for every person, every situation, because not every person do you have to just omit from your life and never speak to again, but you can start to do little things here and there that will help you to, I don't want to say make this person change, but it'll definitely change your relationship and you'll get what you need out of the situation, which is respect. The hardest thing with boundaries is just the consistency. You being consistent with a person, especially if you're dealing with a difficult one, where the consistency is where you're really showing this person that I will not tolerate this behavior and this is how I respond when you give me this behavior. So the cliff notes on boundaries is basically, so if you're analytical, take notes. Step one, you have to know what you think and how you feel. What does that mean? That means that when someone violates a boundary, can you even acknowledge that that didn't feel okay? So when someone said something, when someone did something, are you aware that that didn't feel comfortable, that you didn't enjoy that? Now that sounds very, very basic and you're like, all right, let's keep going here. I already get that. But a lot of people really don't know. They just take abuse, they take manipulation, they take gaslighting, they take guilt, they take shame, and they don't even know that someone's doing that. And for years and years, I didn't know when people were doing that to me. So I think understanding emotional abuse is very important and understanding what those tactics look like and how they play out. But for the sake of this video, we're gonna get to the cliff notes of boundaries. So step one, what you think and how you feel. Can you acknowledge when a boundary is actually violated? Even if in real time you can't, can you leave that interaction, reflect on it, and know that that didn't feel good? Let's go a little bit further with that. What you want to be able to do now is be able to understand, how did you want to be treated? What did you want that person to say? What is the behavior that you actually will tolerate? What is acceptable behavior? What should that interaction have looked like? This is where you start talking about your standards, and your boundaries are basically just you verbally communicating or enforcing what your standards are. So what are your standards? How I want to be treated, what I view as a healthy relationship should look like and feel like. What does mutual respect look like between the two of us? So if you can understand what that looks like and feels like, and then go deeper, if you can even be able to start articulating that with no anger, with no animosity, with no anything, no ego. We're just talking about our standards. And you have really just already mastered actually step one and step two. Step two is really you articulating yourself to this person. So how can I talk to you about what I think and how I feel and how I didn't like that and how I would have liked this, and come to the table in a healthy way? Now, the reason why this is so important is because if you're dealing with someone who is unhealthy, emotionally abusive, narcissistic, and it doesn't have to be someone that has a personality disorder and someone who's crazy toxic. It can just be someone who has their own ego as well. And when you bring this stuff up to them, they're going to get a little defensive. So step two, you being able to communicate with people means that you have to hold on to yourself. You have to learn how to control your emotions. This is where emotional intelligence comes into play. This is where learning how to parent myself comes into play, where if I do start to feel anything, that I know how to handle that situation. And look, let's just be honest. All of these things that I talk about, you're not going to do them perfectly every single time. I think even yesterday I was on the phone with a client. I'm like, look, you're not going to do this perfect, and you're going to mess it up, and you're going to say something that you wish you didn't, and you're going to be reactive, and your ego is going to take the forefront of the conversation. Those things are going to happen. What we're trying to do is just bring a little bit more self-awareness to these interactions, to you becoming a different person and handling yourself in a different way. That will start to cultivate change in your life. That will start to cultivate a little bit more peace and happiness within your own self. That's what we're looking to get out of this. Cliff Notes, step 3 is going to be enforcing boundaries. And enforcing boundaries, again, is we're not going to get too much into detail with this, but just kind of like the overview is, does this person need to be in my life? I mean, honestly, let's start with like the worst case scenario that you have to cut someone out of your life. That's a real thing. Do I need to stop going above and beyond for someone who doesn't respect what I bring to the table, nor do they appreciate it? Sometimes enforcing boundaries is as simple as just not engaging in the negative conversation after you have not explained yourself, but explained your standards and how you want to be treated, and that this isn't okay. And now this person, you can feel the pull. This person wants to go toe to toe with you in the ring. You disengaging is enforcing your boundaries, that I'm not over-explaining myself. I'm not trying to convince you of anything. I'm also not getting angry and starting a fight with you. You're starting to cut me at my knees. That's unacceptable. So now I'm disengaging. So your ability to control your emotions is huge. I mean, for the most part, anyone who is semi-healthy themselves, the minute you start to change your ways and how you've always approached situations, most people are going to be respectful of your boundaries. But the people that are the takers, the people that come from straight ego and defensiveness, no, they're not going to appreciate this new healthy you that's saying, hey, I have a level of self-confidence now and I don't deserve to be treated this way. So you're going to get pushback, and chances are you know who those people are, and chances are you know what you need to do differently in those interactions, and it's just a matter of practice. If you have really struggled with being the people pleaser in the family, or you have just never really learned this skill of being able to just stand up for yourself and just talk about how you want to be treated, then this is going to be uncomfortable. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to say that this is going to be easy, because it's not hard to do it, but you have to work through all of the stories that are making you feel ashamed for doing it, guilty for doing it, afraid to do it. All of those stories are the only things that are keeping you stuck to not be able to actually just have conversations with people. I mean, really, that's what this is. We're not fighting a battle here. We're just saying, hey, no, I don't like that, and I'm disengaging. No, I can't do that. So we're just not going with the flow any longer. And for some people in your family and in your friend circle, or perhaps even your partner, they're not going to like that, and it's going to be uncomfortable for you in the beginning until you learn how to detach from making everyone else comfortable and happy. I mean, at the end of the day, if what you really want is respect, if what you want is healthy relationships, everything that you've done this far has not created any of that. Now we're not going to point the finger on everyone else and this person's unhealthy and this person's toxic and they always throw guilt and shame and then they get defensive and they start yelling at me when I say something. We don't care about that. We care about you and how you're interacting with these people in these situations and what you need to actually do different, because you can have the relationships that you really do want. You just have to start doing something different. And if people are meant to stay, they're going to adjust. It's funny because when you ask people what's the number one thing for a really great relationship, and everyone says communication, yes, people say trust and honesty and all of those kind of things, but communication is always the biggest one, and a lack of boundaries is a lack of communication. It's an ability to not be able to talk about what you need in the relationship and how you want to be treated. And to go even further with that, sometimes it's not even just the ability to discuss these things and have these uncomfortable conversations, even though they're not really uncomfortable. You're just talking about what you need. That's actually a healthy thing. But because you didn't really grow up in environments where those kind of conversations were always fostered and you became comfortable talking about what it is that you do need and when you did, if you did, it was respected. I mean, if those things didn't happen, then yeah, you're going to be crappy at boundaries. You're not going to understand how to do this. So, and most of us didn't really have those kind of upbringings where we were taught these skills. So as an adult, you have to learn how to basically undo years and years of programming, of habits that you've done. Everything is just a habit. It's just a habit of you people pleasing. It's a habit of you being nervous to have these conversations because you're intimidated by this person, because you don't know what they're going to do or say. It's these fears that you have that are not real that are stopping you from having, quite honestly, self-respect. So if you are struggling with boundaries or you just want to get better at it, I'm telling you, watch this again, take some notes, and figure out where in this little mini crash course, where do you need to start? You're not going to watch one video and then go out there and just kill it every single time. You're going to want to understand yourself and where you struggle and with whom do you struggle with this? And what is the fear behind interactions with this person or these types of situations? So I hope this helped. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Please share this video with family, friends, anyone who you think might benefit from any of this information. It's definitely a great mini course to kind of have in the back pocket, but it definitely takes practice. It definitely takes understanding yourself and where you struggle internally with boundaries. So thanks guys so much for joining me this week. I hope you guys are well, and please comment down below on any topics that you want me to cover going forward, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.